I live by two sounds. The two-tone wail of a siren and the crisp hiss of a blood pressure cuff. Put them together and you get me. A 38-year-old paramedic with Orleans Parish EMS. I rent a faded shotgun house in the Bywater, keep my boots by the door, and know which potholes on Claiborne rattle a life pack off its bracket if you hit them at 30. I get coffee at PJ's on Burgundy, text my ex-wife, Lena, about our daughter, and tell myself I'll say no to overtime even as I pin the next available shift to my fridge with a magnet shaped like a crawfish. On paper, I'm competent. I passed NREMP on the first try. I can thread an 18 gauge in a moving rig with a penlight in my teeth. I can tell drunk from hypoglycemic by the way someone stares at a bottle of water. I can talk a mother through her first contraction and a son through his father's last breath. But competence isn't control. And New Orleans teaches that every August when the cone of uncertainty starts crawling up the Gulf like an animal scenting home. The bay felt wrong that Saturday. Heavier air, as if the humidity had weight. Calls stacked up. Not storm calls yet, just the pre-storm jitter. Ladder falls, heart racing that's really dread. Refill requests because pharmacies boarded early. The Waffle House near Station 1 stayed open, of course, while the TV looped the radar like a screensaver. My partner, Big Mike, sat on the edge of the stretcher eating a roast beef po' boy and doing what he calls storm math. Ms. Loretta's concentrator'll lose power first, he said, licking gravy from his thumb. Miss Sesay's staying with 8 cats, which is going to be a smell and a half. Darnell already called twice, 'cause he lost his insulin. He air-quoted so hard I could hear it. I scrolled Noah updates and texted Lena. Keep Maddie in Baton Rouge at your sister's. I'll check in when I can. She sent back a thumbs up and a heart. Funny how we became better co-parents than spouses after the papers were signed. Maybe it's easier to be honest when the worst is already over. I restocked the rig like a ritual: saline, OPAs and NPAs, fresh ET tubes, extra suction canisters because floodwater makes everything filthy. I palmed a few more pediatric electrodes, a habit ever since a sticker slid off a sweaty chest on a July call and cost me 5 seconds I still think about sometimes. I checked the CPAP mask seals, wiped the headrest just because, and told myself the same lie all locals tell themselves. It's just another storm. The city wears Katrina like a bruise under makeup, but we've built muscle on top of it. I lay down on the bench seat for an hour of fitful rest in my uniform shirt, boots on. You learn the city by heat maps and grief maps. Which corners go loud at 2 a.m. Which porches become clinics at noon. Which Walgreens keeps Pedialyte behind the counter like contraband. Which convenience store will let you use the bathroom if you bring the rig. Which streetlights blink out first so you bring a headlamp. The list lives in my bones. And still, the thing New Orleans is best at is catching you between categories, between party and hangover, rain and flood, plan and improvisation. That's where we work. The sign of trouble wasn't the meteorologist's spiral. It was the way the radio chatter sharpened. Dispatchers get clipped when they're scared. Unit 7 stage. Unit 3 hold. All units. Sustained winds increasing. The bay doors rattled. The fluorescent tubes over the supply cart buzzed like hornets. Mike bumped me with his elbow and said, "Here we go, share." I said, "Yep," and stuffed an extra pair of gloves in my pocket like that could help. I didn't think about heroism. I thought about the gas in the generator behind the station, about our Sparrow 2 tanks, about whether the Walgreens on Chup would reopen quickly for refills after. I thought about Maddie's last drawing me next to a big red truck, the sun a red crayon heart, and I put the paper back in my wallet. The wind pressed its hand against the bay. I pressed back with work. Part 2. Ida landed on a Sunday like a long, hard exhale. Palms along St. Charles bent as if digging for roots. The 911 board bled red and orange, and dispatch bundled calls. 2 difficulty breathings on 1 block, lift assist and diabetic emergency around the corner. We staged by the Superdome during the worst gusts, the rig rocking like a boat, while I watched my phone battery bleed down and the little heart sun on my lock screen kept smiling. The call that wakes me wasn't TV big. No camera would care. Unresponsive child, possible seizure. The MDT read. Low-rise off chef meant a highway. Elevators down. We climbed 4 flights in wet boots. life pack and airway bag hitting our legs, knuckles stinging from new blisters. A woman met us barefoot, eyes blown wide. "He was hot," she said. Then he wouldn't wake up. The boy was 3, maybe 4. Sweat dried in whirls on his hair. His lips were too pale. While Mike checked for pulses, I opened the airway and watched for a breath I liked. I didn't see it. Carotid weak, maybe. Unreliable fingers. "Bag him," I said. "Temp?" The thermometer chirped 104.8. The box fan in the corner might as well have been furniture. We started cooling, wet towels, freezer pops pressed to the groin and armpits. Our rig's patient fan ported off a battery pack. I drew up acetaminophen for a suppository like we do with kids who can't keep fluids down, and kept my voice steady because steadiness keeps other people from breaking. The rhythm on the monitor widened, slowed. "He's bradying," Mike said. "He's going." I had to decide. Stay and cool or scoop and run. The nearest ER with a generator was 20 minutes in high winds through branches and stalled cars. I saw the gray at the boy's mouth, the mother's shaking hands, the numbers on a screen, and said, "We're moving." We carried him wrapped in a sheet, Mike bagging tight and regular, me counting compressions when the pulse slipped to nothing, the mother barefoot behind us, begging God in a voice that could split concrete. In the rig, the air smelled like rubber and bleach and a kind of metallic fear I tasted on my tongue. I drew up atropine and the plunger stuck a hair. My thumb pushed too hard. We hit a puddle and the monitor leads popped off. I lost 5 seconds reattaching them. That's the slice of time my brain replays in the quiet, the stupid little sticker that wouldn't stick to damp skin. "Come on, little man," I heard myself say. Sometimes we narrate to patients to keep from shattering. Mike breathed for him steady as a metronome. If medicine had a god, I would have bargained with it then, offered up all my overtime, every bit of pride, whatever was left. The ER was ready. Blue gowns, a tiny BVM, a charge nurse with a clipboard asking for an age I hadn't confirmed. 3? 4? My voice sounded like someone else's. We handed off and spoke the facts. Hyperthermia, bradycardia, possible seizure, started cooling, bagged en route, lost pulses, resumed, regained weak pulses, lost again. I said times. I said doses. The pediatrician nodded without looking away from the child, eyes narrowed with that focus you only get when the rest of the world drops away. A resident came to us after what could have been 10 minutes or an hour. The generator coughed. Somewhere in the bay, rain hammered a metal roof. She had the face you learn in this work. Soft enough to be human, stiff enough to hold. "Severe hyperthermia," she said. "Cardiac arrest in the bay. We got him back and lost him again." She told us the time of death. The numbers washed over me like rain off a windshield, visible, then gone. We cleaned the rig in silence. Bleach, red bags, a quick snap of a glove that sounded too loud. Mike, who swears like a preacher when he's happy and once punched a heavy bag until his palms blistered, wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand. "We did what we could," he said. I nodded because that's the sentence you're supposed to say to yourself and your partner and the walls. In my head another voice answered, "My father's, maybe, or just the side of me that keeps score. You missed something. You should have stayed longer. You should have called air evac that wasn't flying. You should have bent time with your bare hands. As if should could move physics. We went back in service because that's what happens." The board still glowed. A generator's exhaust drifted across the bay and stung my nose. Dispatch said, "Unit 7, copy." We copied. We always do. Part 3. After the wind, the city sweated. Streets glittered with torn shingles and glass. Traffic lights blinked yellow like sleepy eyes. Soggy couches lined curbs. FEMA trucks crept into neighborhoods like cautious animals. Walgreens reopened with half-lit aisles and ice behind the counter like gold. Work didn't stop. It changed shape. Carbon monoxide poisonings from generators, fights in gas lines, grandmothers missing dialysis because clinics were dark. We ran on diesel fumes and lukewarm Gatorade, eating peanut butter crackers we found in a supply bin, telling each other dumb jokes to give our nerves something to do. On day 4, when the sun felt meaner than the wind ever did, I stopped by my house. The fence was down, The hibiscus gone. The fridge smelled like a crime scene you want to forget even as you open the door again like an idiot. Mr. Ron, my retired electrician neighbor in a saint's cap older than me, handed me an extension cord. "Run it to my generator till midnight," he said. "That's New Orleans. Help from someone with their own problems stacked to the ceiling." I plugged in my phone and stared at the wall. I didn't turn on a fan. Quiet punished me. I went back to the station and signed up for more overtime, as if noise could be medicine. Lena called. Maddie asked why my voice sounded like I was in a tunnel. "Because I'm in one," I said, and tried to laugh. Behind her I heard a cartoon theme, the safe sound of normal life happening somewhere with AC that worked. "She drew you another picture," Lena said. "You and a red truck. The sun's a heart again." I told her I loved it and swallowed against a throat that felt like I'd breathed sheetrock dust. Shame moves softly. It lives in the gap between the story you tell and the one that happened. At the station I wrote my report careful as surgery. Timestamps, vitals, interventions, the rationale for transport versus staying cool, dead radios, broken elevator, wind speed, route chosen. On the line that asks, "Any deviation from protocol?" I checked no. Though reality never matches laminated algorithms, and we all know it. A week later, risk management called me into a conference room where the AC set my fingers aching. A man in a tie read my narrative, underlined parts with yellow. The child's mother had filed a complaint, her right. "She says you left too soon," he said. "Walk me through your decision-making." I did. Flat, keeping my voice off its hinges. At the end he asked, "Would you do anything differently?" The corporate answer, "We continually evaluate." The human answer sat in my mouth like a stone. Peer support caught me at shift change. Danny, medic turned counselor who wears her badge on a lanyard like a truce, handed me water and sat on the curb where the sun warmed the concrete. "You saw a kid die," she said, matter of fact. I shrugged like the sentence could slide off. "You're doing the overtime thing," she added. "The not sleeping thing. The pretending it's fine thing." "It's fine," I lied. "It's the job." "Part of the job isn't the same as easy," she said. A lizard did push-ups on the wall. She watched it like it was instructive. "I know the exact sound an EKG makes when you lose lead contact," she said. "My brain plays it in the shower. Guilt shapeshifts. It will call you incompetent, then arrogant for still showing up. Give it a smaller house to live in." "How?" I asked, too tired to pretend I didn't want the answer. "Tell the truth out loud to someone who can hold it," she said. "Then do one useful thing where the outcome isn't your responsibility. Bake a neighbor a cake. Clean a fridge. Build something you can finish." So I did the smallest good thing I could think of. I knocked on Ms. Loretta's door, the concentrator lady from Mike's list. She was sweating in a floral robe, ankles swollen, a picture of her grandkids taped to the wall crooked. "We're swapping your machine to a generator for a few hours," I said. We ran an orange cord to Mr. Ron's place and I taped a sign above the plug. "Do not unplug for any reason." Not heroic, not even strictly medical. I just watched the green light on her concentrator stay steady, and she watched me watching it, and something in my chest loosened a fraction. On my first day off, I drove to Baton Rouge. The interstate was a procession of bucket trucks and people hauling their lives in U-Hauls. Maddie met me in the driveway with paint on her hands. She is 6 and ferocious. She believes Band-Aids cure feelings and stuffed animals get a vote. We sat on the kitchen floor and she painted my thumb with glitter polish. "Mom says you help people," she said. "Do you also help yourself?" The kid asks questions like a therapist. "Sometimes," I said. After she slept, Lena and I sat on the porch. "We're good at silence now." I told her the details. The heat in that apartment, the mother's voice, the sticker that wouldn't stick. I said the part I'd been circling. I chose transport too soon. She didn't absolve me. She didn't scold me. She said, "I'm glad you said it out loud." It landed like a floor. Part 4. A month later, our department hosted a recovery clinic at a church off-Broad. The banner said Hurricane Recovery Resource Day. Grant speak for, "Bring your bag of broken. We'll fix what we can." We checked blood pressures, handed out Narcan with instruction cards, registered grandfathers for dialysis shuttles, and taught kids how to call 911 from their parents' locked iPhones. I worked the heat safety table. We had handouts about wet bulb temps, ice packs and coolers, and a whiteboard where I block printed simple rules. Shade, water, rest, check kids and elders. Near noon, a woman in a yellow dress hovered at the fringe. I knew her before my brain admitted it. She knew me too. For a second, I thought she'd turn around. Instead, she walked up and said her son's name like a gift I didn't deserve. "I'm Aaron," I said, as if we didn't both already know. I was the medic. We stood in the hum of a generator and the smell of fundraiser jambalaya and the clatter of folding chairs. "I filed a complaint," she said carefully. I was angry. She looked at the handouts like they were courteous but insufficient. "I thought you should have stayed longer." "I still think that." I nodded. Both things can be true. That we did our best in a broken hour, and that our best wasn't enough. "I'm sorry," I said, not as a stamp but as somewhere to stand. If I could trade every hour of overtime for one more minute with him, I would. I can't. So I'm here with ice packs and a marker, trying to lower the odds for the next family. She breathed out, a fragile sound. "That's something," she said. "It isn't everything." Then she asked me to program emergency contacts on her new phone, so pressing 2 buttons would dial 911 and ping her sister. We did it together. Her hands shook. Mine did too. Rituals matter. The next week I started therapy in a beige office near Jefferson Highway. The first appointment I almost left because I didn't want to be a medic who needed help. Then I pictured Maddie asking if I helped myself and walked in. The therapist had a saint's mug and a bookshelf with actual books. "No breathwork, no cliches. Tell it in order," she said. "Say the parts you usually skip." I did. She didn't ask me to forgive myself on a timeline. She asked me what actions would make the next similar call a little safer. Homework I could live with. At work I requested a QA review of pediatric heat protocols, not to be right but to be more right next time. We added a line about staying cool when transport time exceeds a window. We ordered electrodes that stick to damp skin. CAD got an overlay of cooling centers so dispatch can tell callers where to go before we arrive. Small stuff. People rolled their eyes at another checklist. But on the next 98-degree day, I watched a rookie read it like a spell, and I didn't mind being the old guy who taped a list to a wall. Life kept happening in the next lane over. Ms. Loretta moved to her nieces in Gentilly. Big Mike broke up with his girlfriend and bought a smoker. Maddie lost a tooth and made me put it in a sandwich bag like currency. One night, I took her to City Park for beignet, and she blew powdered sugar at me and called it snow. A brass band stitched the air together with trumpets. The lagoon reflected a gold you can't buy, and I decided to keep showing up even when showing up made me ache. The test of a new course isn't the big moments. It's the small, unfilmed ones. A couple weeks later, feverish child, lethargic, different block, same story. 3 flights, a 5-year-old on a couch. Air thick and the box fan tired. We did the basics. Temp screaming. I looked at the mother and at Mike and at the clock and said, "We're staying." We stripped the child to a diaper, packed ice at neck and groin, misted and fanned, started a line, prepped for transport but didn't sprint the thin line between help and harm. 10 minutes of cooling and the kid blinked at me, slow and confused and blessedly alive enough to be annoyed by the mask. We rolled then, easier, with a mother thanking us and me not dodging the thanks. That night I wrote a list and taped it inside my locker where I grabbed my stethoscope. What I do when it's loud. Say the patient's name. Names keep people from turning into tasks. Choose stay and treat or go now with both map and body in mind. Distance and physiology, not habit. Ask one non-technical question that still matters. Who else is home? Who can I call? Where's the med list? Apologize when the tape won't stick or the ride is rough. Honesty cools a room. Hand somebody something tangible. Aftercare sheet, ice pack, clinic number, a sticker for a scared kid. Tell the truth after the call to one person who can hold it without turning it into a sermon. Mike, Danny, Lena, or my therapist. Do one finite thing at home. Wash dishes, water basil, fix Maddie's loose bike chain. Finishing small reminds me big isn't all mine to finish. I don't pretend that list is armor. There's no armor here, just better habits. I still wake to phantom alarms. I still step into the bay, smell bleach, and want to sprint toward noise because quiet is a mirror. But when the tones drop and the city unrolls like a stubborn river, I remind myself my job isn't to win. It's to arrive with skill and gentleness and leave people a fraction steadier than I found them. On Sundays, I take Maddie to Audubon Park. We watch the joggers and pelicans and the way this place pretends not to be fragile. She holds my hand with fierce sincerity. "Dad?" she asked last week. "Are you brave?" I thought about heat and failure and a yellow dress by a folding chair. About a loaf of banana bread we left on Ms. Loretta's step with a note that said, "Call if you need ice." "I'm trying to be the kind of brave that doesn't look like a movie," I told her. She nodded like that made exact sense. There's a moment on the causeway at dusk when the lake mirrors the sky so cleanly the horizon disappears and you feel suspended. It's terrifying and tender at once. That's where I live now, in the thin place where the difference between falling and flying is mostly attention. I can't promise outcomes. I can promise to look, to listen, to keep the list where I can see it, to say names, to stay longer when staying matters, to move when moving saves, and to keep a small ration of mercy for the part of me that still wishes I could bend time.